Hey folks, welcome back to a new session wherein we'll be, learning about how to build an OpenAI web applications using, JavaScript. And for today's session, we have Shruti with us. Shruti, would you like to give yourself a quick introduction?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Shruti Kapoor. I am a staff engineer. I'm currently working at Slack. I have been building AI applications in a Build With Me 30-day web challenge since January 1. So I wanted to share this presentation with you and help you understand how to build AI applications. There's a lot of content out there on building AI applications in Python, but not so much on JavaScript. So this is all going to be JavaScript focused.
Okay, so Shruti, I'll go backstage. I'll give this time completely to you. You know, thank you for the session again. Taking out time for such sessions, it's very helpful for folks who are there new learning about AI and JavaScript. So yes, you can.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Okay, folks, so I have prepared some slides and we have some code demos, so we're going to jump right into the slides. Okay, first of all, quick introduction again. My name is Shruti Kapoor. You'll see me around on the internet at Shruti Kapoor08, and I am on a mission to help you excel at your job, whether it is finding a new job, whether it is succeeding in your new job, whether it is filing for a promotion, whether it is getting your resume reviewed. So if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. You can also find me on the internet at anything Shruti Kapoor08. So twitter.com Shruti Kapoor08, Blue Sky Shruti Kapoor08. And here is a QR code which you can scan that takes you directly to all of the links. I also produce content on youtube.com/shrutikapur08, which is where you can find all of my tutorials. And this OpenAI stuff that we're building is also on YouTube. So if you need another revision of this, head over to youtube.com. I also have React tutorials there. So today we're going to build a web app with LangChain and OpenAI. And if you're new to LangChain, if you're new to OpenAI, if you're new to just the AI world, there is a lot of content here that I am going to help you understand what AI is and how to get started. So don't worry if you're new, there's going to be enough information for everybody here. So here's what we're going to talk about today. There's going to be a glossary in which I explain what is LLM, what is OpenAI, what is LangChain, prompt, token, stuff like that. We're going to build a web app. It's going to be hands-on. There is a GitHub link that I will share. It'll be in the description. So if you want to check out the code, it'll be there. And then if you have built this AI app, what can you do next? What can you use this information for? And what kind of apps can you build? That'll be in the last section. So let's get started. I really like to explain concepts as explain like I'm 5. So here is what large language model would mean. So let's say that, so this is a photo of my little brother. And the way I like to explain LLM is, let's say that your brother is asking you questions and your brother is asking you questions and your brother wants to understand something. So you're kind of like the source of information for your brother. My dog wants to go out. You're kind of like the source of information for your brother. So you're the library that the brother asks questions to. You're the place where the brother asks questions to. So in this case, you are the LLM. Okay, LLM is basically a data source where you can go, where you can ask questions. LLM is the place where all of the information is stored. So LLM is kind of like your database, kind of like your source of information. Hold on. I'm going to have to pause for a second because my dog wants to go out.
Okay, so until she is there, helping her dog. Maybe in the chat you can drop down. Have you started with LLM? AI has been there for around, I guess, a couple of years now. So have you started with OpenAI? What's your view on AI? Maybe you can drop down your views on the chat, and let's see what conversation we head to. Yep, I guess Shruti is back. Okay, Shruti.
Yeah, thank you. My dog is like, I need to leave.
Okay, I can totally understand that.
My dog is like, too much code for me. Okay, sorry about that, folks. So okay, then the what LLM is used for is natural language processing. I think you might have seen this a lot. This is actually what we're going to use today as well. Natural language is like English language. You provide things like a sentence, like an English language sentence. You could be like, hey, I am looking for a travel itinerary. Can you give me ideas? So that kind of stuff. So you're providing an English language, but you expect LLM to understand that and process it into information so that it can send you back whatever information you expected from. It could be JSON data. It could be just text. But basically, you're processing natural language. So that's what LLM could be used for. Also, generating text. This is something that, and answering questions. This is what we use ChatGPT for. So you might be pretty familiar with that. Answering questions such as, what is the biggest country in the world? What is the biggest economy? That kind of stuff. So answering questions. LLM is kind of the stuff that is giving you back that answers. So large in LLM refers to the number of parameters that the language has been trained on and it can learn. So that's what large language model is. Okay, then prompt. I think you might have heard of prompt a lot in terms of prompt engineering. What prompt means is you, for example, tell your sister you want to do or learn, right? So you ask her, what is this? What is that? That is a prompt. So you're giving a prompt to LLM to answer your question. So anything that you send to your LLM, that's going to be the prompt. So it is basically a special instruction or a question that we ask the LLM model. In our case, that could be like, what is the biggest country? That is going to be the LLM. Or generate an itinerary for me. That's the LLM. That's the prompt. It doesn't have to be simple English language stuff. It can also be like, you also send like these kind of code to ChatGPT. You can be like, find the bug in this code. So fix the typo in this. That is also a prompt. And then what is a token? You might have heard token a lot if you do, if you send a big amount of data to ChatGPT. You might have seen that, where tokens are basically, you ask your sister to explain the story into you in a small digestible format, right? So your sister tries to give you you tell your sister to explain you like a big concept in a small story, and that small story or that small segment is called a token. So for example, in LLM's stuff, this would mean small blocks of information. So for example, you send a giant amount of code, LLM actually breaks it down into smaller segments so that it can understand, and that is the token. It can be characters, it can be words, it can be segments of code, it can be parts of an image, things like that. Okay, so for example, if you have a sentence like the cat is sleeping, that will be divided into 4 tokens. The cat is and sleeping. And why this is important is the number of tokens actually determine how much you end up paying to the AI servers. So the larger the amounts of a token, the more you end up paying. All right, now let's build a web app. Some questions that I feel new engineers would ask when it comes to adoption is where to start. So you want to build an AI service, so much questions out there, like where to start. So I would recommend starting with OpenAI. It is easily integrable with other platforms like LangChain. Start with OpenAI. Which language to use? If you're comfortable with JavaScript, use JavaScript. In this demo, I'm going to be using JavaScript. Which framework to use? LangChain is actually my preferred choice because LangChain allows you to integrate with not just OpenAI, but other models as well. So, and it has integration with JavaScript. So use LangChain. It's pretty easy to set up. And do I need to train models? This is a question that I had when I was getting started. So the answer is no, you don't need to train models. You will be consuming a model, but you don't need to do training of the model, which is actually a lot harder. How much will it cost? It can cost however much you want to pay. You could also use the free plans, but your tokens would be limited, or you can upgrade and you have a much bigger token length. Okay, so now let's build the web app. In terms of what the web app would look like, I have broadly divided this into the front end part and the back end part. Front end part, you all know, is the UI. This is the part that you actually see. Back end is the part that integrates with the UI to receive all of the API requests. And where AI service comes in here is we'll be building an AI service that actually sits in the backend layer. And really, I call it towards the end of the backend layer because let's say that you call an API. That API then further calls the AI service that we're going to build. And where OpenAI comes in here is that AI service, and that is built in LangChain for us, would actually be the one calling OpenAI. So that is our LLM. We're going to build an AI service that's going to be in our app, but then externally, it's going to call OpenAI. And you could also have other models here as well. LangChain allows you to integrate with other models like Anthropic, Hugging Face, Microsoft's, Google's. Today, we're going to only use OpenAI, but if you are interested in integrating with like things like Claude, you could also use LangChain. If you want to build your own LLM, you could also use AI service. Like you could also use LangChain for that because it integrates with Hugging Face. So integrating with OpenAI and LangChain is actually pretty straightforward. All you need to do is sign up for a dev account, which actually gives you access to an API key, and then you give them your credit card and give them all your money. Setting up LangChain is also straightforward because it's an npm module. So you say npm install LangChain, and then you just import OpenAI, which is the model if you want to integrate with OpenAI. You do need to provide your OpenAI key when you integrate with LangChain. So this is where your OpenAI dev key would be useful. And you create an LLM instance there, and that is all you need to do to integrate with OpenAI. So fundamentals block of service that we're going to be using in this is prompts. This is how we're going to send our information to LLM. We're going to be, the model that we're going to use is going to be OpenAI model. And that is what our data is going to be trained on. So we're going to parse that information, the natural language text that we receive using a structured output parser. So that is the parser we're going to use. What parser does is it takes the input that the user is sending, parses it into a format that LLM can understand in a more structured format, and then sends it back to the LLM. And then we are also able to define what kind of format we want that LLM to give us back. So if you want natural language text, just English language, we can specify that. But if you're looking for like more structured data like JSON, we can get that as well using a parser. So those are the three fundamental blocks of AI service that we're going to use. Prompts, which is getting data from which is the data that the user sends us, English language text. Models, that's literally what we're going to send our data to, the LLM. And then the parser, which is kind of the middle man between the input that we send and the output that we expect to receive. So the way this works is we have a prompt template. This is where we pass the input that the user gives us. The prompt template then calls the LLM, the model, and we call the LLM, and whatever information it gives us back, we're going to send it through a parser so that we can understand the data that it sends back. Let's do this. All right, I'm going to move to my code demo here. And on the right side, actually, hopefully this is code is big enough. Let me just zoom in a bit. So here we have set up a simple UI. The job of this app is to allow a user to search for properties in Seattle. Now, there might be a lot of real estate apps. Why I don't like those apps is because I have to go in and write and look for all these filters and put like number of bedrooms and this and that stuff. And I hate doing that. So instead of doing that, you could just look for a property by saying, I'm looking for is this big enough? I'm looking for a 3-bedroom house in the range of, let's start with 500K. Houses in Seattle are expensive. To 1 million. 1 million. How many zeros are there in million? 1 million. Okay, there you go. So I'm just gonna write down. I'm looking for a 3-bedroom house in the range of 500,000. Wait, I hope this is not five. Yeah, 500,000 to 1 million. And then if I click search, I have a loading screen, and I expect it to give me properties that match that range. So there are some properties now that match the range that I've given. This is what I'm doing in this app. How I'm doing this, let's go and get started. So the UI, let's go to the UI first. In my app.jsx file, as you can see, so I'm going to walk through this code, but if you want to follow along, feel free to follow along. There's going to be a GitHub link as well, where you can follow along as well. So let's get started. So first thing is I have a text area here where I'm entering the input field. So this is UI is super simple. I have an action, I have a text area. The value is the input that I am gonna use from the user, and that is going to be stored in search input. And I'm using React here, so I have a set search input. Anytime they change value, I put it in my search input, which is just a state variable. Then I've got one button here, which is looking for a this one. I have a search button here, which actually calls the handle submit function. So let's look at this. Let's look at this handle submit function. So what handle submit does is it picks up the search input that the user has entered and starts the loading screen, which is set is loading true. And then it calls in a backend API/parse properties. We'll look at that in a second. But whatever that data comes back, if that data looks fine, if the data looks fine, then it extracts that JSON out of the data, which is the parse data, and sets the properties. Now, properties is how we're loading this data on the screen, which is properties is actually going to be an array, which is initialized to a blank array at the beginning. But once we get the data back from response, we put it in our set properties, and we set the loading to false. I'll also show you what the properties looks like. So if we've got properties, then we call this component that sets the properties, which is here. So pretty simple UI. There's a text area, there's a button, and then there is a rendering of the data using React. Pretty straightforward. The magic actually happens on the backend. So let's go to the backend. So the URL that we were looking at was API/parse properties. Let's go to server file where we're going to look for this API/parse properties, which is right here. This is an Express app, uses Node.js, so everything is in JavaScript. Okay, so this is where the magic happens. I'm going to comment this out so I can help you understand what we're doing. I'm going to comment this part out. And this part out as well. Okay, so the first thing we do is we actually send the description or this input to the backend, right? And we get that out of our requirements. This is basically just English language text. So if I console log requirements here, this would be English language text. And then what we do is we pass these requirements down to our LLM API. So parse properties is literally just calling the LLM API. So remember I said that LLM API sits at the back, at the end of the API service. This is where it's happening. Let's go to the LLM API. LLM API is actually just it is actually a new service here, which I've created. This is the LLM API. And this is where I'm calling OpenAI. So this is my LLM service. This is where my OpenAI is being called. So remember I said that you need an OpenAI key. I create an LLM instance using the OpenAI key that I have created. And this is all I need to call LLM. So what I need to do here is, in order to pass the prompt that the user sent me, I need to define what the output should look like. So I need to tell LLM that the data that I sent needs to be parsed in a format that I can understand afterwards. So first thing I'm going to show you here is this prompt template. So prompt template, I told you, was how we pick a prompt from the user and send it over to our LLM. So this is where I'm defining that. So I'm going to tell LLM that parse the description provided by user to extract information about real estate preferences, right? This is how I'm telling LLM to do what I want it to do. It's simple English language text, super easy to send. So I'm going to tell it like parse the description part by the user to extract information. But how is it going to do that? I'm going to provide that through the format instructions, which I'll show you in a second. And then I'm also saying that I'm giving you format instructions and I'm giving you the description. And that is how I invoke a LLM API. So then I'll give it the LLM. Here, if you wanted to give like Claude or Microsoft, you could change this to Microsoft or Claude, and then you just call your LLM and it will call a different service. So instead of OpenAI, you could easily switch it out to a different service. Okay, and then so you have to give it the LLM API, which is the LLM model you need, and then you need to give it the parser. So parser is how it understands what data is being sent and how to send it back to you. So then I'm going to tell it that I'm going to give you format instructions and description, and where is that? That is being defined here. Description is the data that I sent to this function, this LLM API, and that is literally the English language text. Format instructions is now what I help. Format instructions is how I call my parser and tell the LLM API. So this is what the parser looks like. And in this parser is where I define what I want this data to be formatted into and how I want this data to be structured. So I'm telling it there is a price ending, and I tell it. So this is a Zod object. This is how we create like JSON objects. So I'm going to tell it structured output parser is the parser that I'm going to be using. You could use a text output parser if you only want text, but I want a JSON, so that's why I'm using structured output parser. So I'm going to say the price ending is going to be a string. So I define that a variable needs to be a string, and I'm going to describe what it should be. This is how I'm telling LLM how to use this data that I'm sending and how to parse it. Again, this is just an English language, so super easy to describe. So I could say ending price of budget, and basically I'm telling it parse this English language text and extract the ending price that the user has given. So it's possible that the user did not give me an ending price. So it could just be like this. It could be like I'm looking for a bedroom in the house, 3-bedroom house, starting from 500,000. So they didn't give me any ending range. In that case, I could tell it return 1 million if nothing was passed. So again, parser is how I define what the input data should be formatted into and how it should be formatted. And I can literally describe in English language how that data should be formatted. So I'm telling it should be a string and describe it as the ending price of the budget, return a value if this was not passed. Then price starting, similar thing. I can say starting price of budget, return 0 if not passed. And for bedrooms, I'm going to say that this is going to be a number and describe number of bedrooms. And again, if they haven't returned any bedrooms, so I could say return 1 if not passed. And same with bathrooms and nice to haves. I'm going to ignore nice to haves for now because this is a little bit advanced stuff. So I'm going to ignore nice to haves for you. Okay, so this is how I'm telling LLM that use my English language text, parse it into this format. Now, when English language text is sent through this description, I have to provide the format instructions, which is literally what I just created, but I just get the format instructions out of it, parser.get format instructions. Now, when you call this response, I'm going to console log what comes out of here. And I'm going to open my terminal. And I'm going to open my backend. So it says something crashed, missing catch, or finally after try. Server.js. Oh, it's because I uncommented this. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to change the prompt. I'm going to say I'm looking in the house in the starting range of 500,000. And I'm going to say 4-bedroom house. Let's look for like a 800,000 house to 1.2. And then I'm going to hit search. Actually, I'm not going to be able to find a 4-bedroom house in that range. Let's say 2-bedroom house. Seattle is pretty expensive. So when I click search, let's see what happens. Okay, ignore the UI, but focus on here. Focus on the information that the backend sent us. This is the response that it logged. So it said price ending was 1.2 million, which is what I sent. Price starting was 800K, which is what I sent. And then bedrooms is two bedroom house, and then bathrooms is 1. And nice to haves is an array. Let's ignore nice to have for now. So basically, it sent me whatever I sent as an English language text, and it created a JSON response from it. And all I had to do was create a parser, create a Zod schema in the parser, and it was able to do that with just English language text. So with just this, it was able to create that. That's super neat. Okay. And you can understand that if I was to add something else here, like it should have something like it should have a backyard, a front yard, a nice school district, front yard, a nice school district. I have this nice to have array, which returns anything that is a nice to have. Something like this, it should have a backyard. Or let's say it would be nice to have backyard, front yard, nice school district. So now if I hit search, hopefully it should give that back as a nice to have array. Let's see what it sends. Oh, did I remove console log? Yeah. Console.log response. Okay. Now if I hit search, it should give back to me. Why is it not giving back? Add Zillow property ID field. Console.log response. Okay, let's reload this. Fill and search. Okay, there it is. So now if I say it would be nice to have a backyard, front yard, nice school district, and swimming pool, because why not? Now if I hit search, let's see. Is it able to parse that? Okay, cool. So it got that nice to haves in backyard, front yard, good school district, and swimming pool. So super easy. We used English language text to convert that into JSON, and now we use that JSON object to now call our LLM, to call our real estate API. So far, we've only like parsed English language text into natural language text into JSON, but now we're going to use this JSON somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to send this response. We're going to send this response back to our API, which is server.js. And in this API, we're actually using the response that came back. Where did it go? Here. We got properties requirements, right? So we're using this response that came back. So we've got price ending, response.price ending, starting is response.starting, bedrooms, and oh, I don't know why we have this. So we've got this, and now we're gonna call our real estate API with this. So what we do is we use this properties requirements. That is a requirement that the user sent us, and then we call our real estate API. So this is where this fetch properties function comes in. And in this, what we're getting back is, I'll explain it to you here. So we've got a fetch function in which we have a Zillow API, and then Zillow API is actually the real estate app we're using. You could use Zillow, you could use any real estate app you have. In my case, I'm using Zillow, and Zillow actually provides a search endpoint, which is by address, and then I'm gonna search for this property here. So I'm gonna say that I'm looking for a property in the range, in this location, in the listing status of for sale. Bedroom minimum is the number of bedrooms that my user sent me. Bedroom maximum is, I don't have a maximum. Minimum is the price starting minimum, and maximum is the price ending maximum. And I'm going to send that over to my Zillow API. And after this is just simple, like calling an API. So I parse the response that comes back, and whatever response search results comes back from here, I send it back to my UI. And now in the UI, I have form data. I have this response data that comes back, which is what I then use to set my set properties and set the loading to false. So now if I hit search, it actually gives me back that information that I sent to the user, that I sent to the LLM API. And that's how you integrate LLM into an app. You use OpenAI to integrate with, you use LangChain to integrate with OpenAI. LangChain is the one who's creating an LLM instance for you. And once you create this LLM instance, you can then use this structured output parser to help LLM understand what the data should be outputted like. So here we're describing it as a XORD object, as a JSON object. And in English language, you describe what the data should look like. So what the data should be parsed as. So for example, if you have English language text coming out from this, like ending prices and starting prices, you can say the price ending, that's the JSON object, should look like ending price of budget. So LLM is able to understand that. So you're just using English language to actually construct a JSON object. Super straightforward, I feel like. And the only thing that you need to remember is you need to provide the input that the user gave you and a format instructions that your parser generates for you. So that's where parser is helpful. Description here is the prompt, and format instructions is the parser. Okay, and once that data comes back, you are just then calling the API that you need. So that is what LLM is used for here. I hope that was helpful to understand. There's a next step of this, which is building embeddings. I did not go into that in detail, but I covered that in the live streams that I've been doing on my YouTube channel, which you can find on youtube.com/ShrutiKapoor08. And if you're interested in the second part of this app, which is building generating embeddings, what embeddings are useful for is actually like if you hit the like button here, we generate more recommended properties for you. So this is how we learn which properties you like. And this is kind of like building the Netflix recommendation system. So you can say that if I like property like this, show me more properties like that. And so we show you like a recommended list. But if you dislike this property, we take it out of your system and we show you different properties. So that's how we build a recommended system using embeddings. And if you're interested in that part, it'll be on my YouTube channel. So you can go and follow me there. But now I want to help you understand that if you've learned this information, what can you use this for? So the path forward. Okay, so broadly speaking, AI apps today are kind of divided into 4 categories using the LLM services that are available to us. First is sort of companionship. So it can be like help be my workout buddy and help me, like give me like a workout plan, or like give me like a meal plan. You might have seen this a lot in Instagram, especially. There's apps that help you that help you like track your calorie. There's apps that help you generate a personalized meal plan, personalized workout plan. That's the companionship type of app. You can build that as well using LLMs as well. That's one category. Another is question answering. This is kind of like the chatbot that you've seen. This is very popular right now, which is you give it a question, you answer something back from, you get an answer back from it. So you could ask it like, hey, help me build an itinerary for going to Greece, and it'll give you back like an answer of that. Or you could be like, parse this text for me, and it'll give you back. Another is utility. This is actually something that the LLMs are very capable of, which is you give it a large give it a large data set, and you ask it to parse it for you, summarize it for you. It could be like you can send it like a large blog post, and you say, describe this to me in like 4 sentences, or help me understand this in 4 sentences. That's what the utility service is. Basically, you're sending it a large block of data, and you're using LLM's capability to summarize text, describe it in a short format, or you can use it to create like a translation app. So you are sending like an English language text, and you're asking it to translate that into like Spanish language and things like that. So that's the utility apps. And then the 4th is creativity. So this is when you can ask LLMs to help you create something new. You ask LLM to help you, like you have an idea of, let's say you can have, I'm going to a presentation, and help me, give me 4 ideas to do that. Or you might have seen that there are now AI apps that can help you design your room. So that is, you give it a UI, you give it an image, and you're asking LLM to add some styles to it, some design to it. So you're helping it to enhance your creativity. That's the fourth category. So those are the four main categories of apps that we're creating right now, that we're seeing right now. And if you're interested in like exploring these, this would be a really great place to start. So where to start? Now, if this was helpful for you, there are some resources that I recommend. First is, I think this is on OpenAI site itself. This is super helpful. There are some examples here that are easy to get started with, but I actually like this deep learning course. It's called LangChain for LLM application development. And I think this is on LangChain itself. Oh no, this is on LangChain site itself. So this course is the one that I use to understand how to integrate with the LangChain. I really like this course. This is in JavaScript as well. Okay, now your turn to build an app. If you end up building an app, please send it to me on JavaScript. I would love to, please send it to me on GitHub or Twitter. I would love to see what you build. So here's what we discussed today. We covered in outline, we covered a glossary of the common terms like prompt, tokens, and LLMs. We built a web app where we integrated with OpenAI using JavaScript, using LangChain, and then we sent a natural language text and we were able to convert that into JSON. And we talked about the 4 app categories that we can build. Now, like I said, if you're interested in the second step of this, which is the building the recommendation engine, I have been doing live streams every single day. So come and join me, build with me, and it'll be really, really fun because we build a little bit every day. We code for a little bit every day, and it is a really fun and collaborative atmosphere, super supportive community. So come and join me there. And with that, that is the end. Thank you for watching this presentation.
Yeah, I guess this was really great. We got to learn about JavaScript. We got to learn about how we can embed OpenAI in our application to optimize it to for a better, let's say, prompts or responses. Yep. So, Shruti, one question which I would also like to have from the, let's say, masses or from the folks who are just starting. I'm pretty sure that you have mentioned all the resources which would help in learning OpenAI, or maybe how you can integrate those. But let's say if I'm a beginner who is just starting in web development, what roadmap would you give me in maybe 2025, wherein I can parallelly manage maybe learning about web development and then at the same time implement all these new technologies which are coming in, so that I can be ahead of the crowd which is there?
I think that's a really great question. And if you're just starting with web development and you're seeing all this like different technologies come in, I would say just focus on learning your fundamentals. So do HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I actually have created a checklist on what you should learn. Let me share that. It's also on GitHub. So this is basically our checklist. In no way this is complete, but this is a really good place for you to start. So first focus on your fundamentals, HTML, JavaScript, CSS. Once you have that nailed, once you feel like you can build a site in just JavaScript and HTML and CSS, at that time start adding new libraries to your portfolio. React is still a very popular library today, so I would highly recommend learn React. If you're looking for a job, React would be really, really helpful. Then if you want to start building other stuff, I would say explore what interests you. If you want to build with AI, if you feel like AI would be something you want to go for it. Don't follow FOMO, I would say. There's a lot of technologies that come in and we feel like, oh my God, we have to do that. We have to do that. Don't follow FOMO. Follow what you feel excited for. If you feel excited to do backend, go for backend. If you feel excited to do AI services, do that. If you feel excited to build like cool animations in CSS and build like really fancy UI, do that. So first master your fundamentals and then explore your passion. I've created this checklist which kind of helps you understand some of the things that are necessary to cover in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then you can build like React. I think this has React as well at the end. JavaScript, Web Fundamentals, React. Yeah, so it does have React as well. And then pick other libraries as well. So start with the basics and then build up.
Yep. I guess the folks who are listening to this particular webinar and you are just starting in, let's say, development, or if I especially take development, these are the points which you should look for, because we get so many questions in the community asking where should we start, how should we start. So I guess this is your way to make it good in web development.
Yeah.
Shruti, we have got little questions from the folks from, let's say, LinkedIn, Twitter, and also from YouTube. So if you have a little time, I'll just go ahead and shoot those questions.
Yes.
Yep. So, Shruti, there is, so you have talked about, costings in your session. So let's say, as a beginner or as a student, I might not, want to invest a lot in cost, or maybe, even if I choose OpenAI, there are different pricings of APIs for OpenAI, which are not, let's say, that does not come in handy when you talk about a beginner. So how do
Yeah.
you think a person can maybe optimize his cost while building such projects? Because again, if you are building a good project, only that will stand out for you in acing the interviews as well.
Yeah, totally. So actually, the project that I showed you cost me $0. The number of tokens is actually what determines how much you end up paying. For me, I am sending like literally like one line of text, super simple for me. So I think it depends on what kind of data you're sending. For me, I signed up for the free plan. I don't want to pay for anything yet. My API is free, the API that I'm calling. So you can also select things that are free for OpenAI. It has a free tier. So select the ones that are currently free. There are a lot of options available. You don't have to start paying just yet. LangChain is also free. So all of the tools that I use today are actually free.
Cool. So, folks, you can build good applications without even spending $1. So, you should be using such applications so that you don't spend much and you get good earning. Okay. So, I guess the next question would be, Shruti, wherein while working with AI, it's not that generally easy, right? It's portrayed. It is usually portrayed that okay, you'll get responses, but generally the responses which you get are not correct. You have to maybe fine tune the applications in order to get the response which you are requiring for that particular application.
Yeah.
How do you particularly work in that space to make or maybe fine tune your applications to get the response which you want for your particular, let's say, function or use case?
Yeah, that is a really good question because LLM tends to do that a lot. You might have heard of hallucinations. You might have heard of like LLM just sometimes gives you wrong responses. I don't know if you saw in the demo, but I think I looked for like 500,000 and it actually gave me like a 800,000 property. So sometimes it'll do that. And that happens all the time. Like it's not the fault of OpenAI. It's not a model's fault. It's just every model has that problem. So what you have to build actually is that your front end application or like even your backend should be robust enough to capture that and carry that as a kind of a error mechanism. So your applications need to be able to capture the input that comes back or like the output that comes back from LLM, test that, and then if that is not correct, then it needs to be able to handle that, right? So for example, if I one thing that I do is that I in my parser I was saying if nothing is passed, give this default value. And why I'm sending that is because I've tested that sometimes when I forget to give ending response or like ending range, it actually breaks the application and LLM has no idea what to do. Sometimes it just doesn't give me back and it actually just breaks, or sometimes it'll just hallucinate and give me some weird answers. So you have to build your application such that you're thinking about these error cases. One thing that you have to remember is that anything that you send back, you have to kind of capture it around error cases. So one thing that I need to build in my app is that if the value that comes back from the response is greater than the starting range, or like it's less than the starting range, then I should remove that value. So you have to make sure that your applications are error prone, and that is something that you have to do yourself.
Yep. And like I'll move to the last two questions, Shruti. So before jumping on to the future wherein JavaScript is holding with relation to AI, I would like to ask, what projects. I'm like I saw the list which you gave, the 4 applications which you listed. But
Yeah.
apart from that, what projects do you think, or maybe you could name some applications which would be really interesting as of today
Hmm.
for let's say interviewers who are looking at the resumes? Okay, this application is somewhat interesting, and it'll use the complete power of AI as well. Okay,
Hmm.
let me get in with an interview with this person so that I can understand what he is building on top of that particular application. So
Yeah.
what certain projects in 2025 would you suggest for
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I think there's two types of applications that are super popular. One is something that is like a recommendation service, which is the stuff that I'm building on YouTube right now, which is you like a thing and then you want to see more of those things, like Netflix. Netflix has this recommendation service. I think those kind of stuff is very popular. And why that is popular is because a lot of these e-commerce sites want to help you, want to kind of keep you in their site and help you, like maybe add more items to your cart and maybe help you generate, and maybe it helps them generate more revenue. So if you're looking for an interview in a site that offers that is like a B2C, it sells to consumers, it is definitely going to be looking for ways to optimize that. Another one is data summarization. So you're looking like a large set of model, and this is where I was talking about the utility service. You're looking at a large data set, and you use that to generate summary, and this can be really helpful to like talk about the trends. So you say that we have been looking at this data from consumers, and we think that this should be heading in this direction. So this kind of trends is really helpful. Another stuff that is really, really popular today is agentic workflow. So you're building agents that are able to do all of this stuff for you and able to like redo and rethink their prompts as well. So, for example, in this app, it looks at the data that comes back and then reevaluates if that is correct. And then if it is correct, then it calls the LLM, it calls like the OpenAI. So it is able to do all of the stuff that I built by itself, that agent workflow, that is really popular. So those are the 3 things I would recommend. I would say start off with something that is more simple. So build an LLM API and like build an AI service. And once you integrate like a little bit, once you're able to parse that input and output, then start adding more service. So maybe you can convert it into a recommendation service, maybe you can convert it into a utility service, or maybe you can build an agent from there.
Yep. And since we are very short on time, I'll just quickly shoot the last question. So, according to you, Shruti, what do you think is the future of AI when you talk about if I maybe bring in web development? So, how do you
Hmm.
think will it? Because we have been seeing AI models coming in every day. So I've been
Mhm.
following. We got DeepSeek, then we got Quen 2.5 coming on, OpenAI's models and Gemini's. They are jumping in, coming in really hard.
Yeah.
So what do you think? And we have certain, insecurities coming in, saying that okay, if these will come in or the agents will come in, they'll eventually take over software engineering roles coming in from
Yeah.
these roles. So, what future do you think this holds?
Yeah. So this is why I recommended like keeping your fundamentals strong and keeping not just HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but your critical thinking strong as well. Because what AI tools are doing right now, and I can't speak for future, but right now the AI tools are actually creating these components that can be used to embed in your app. But then what are you going to do with those components, and how do those components integrate with the other components? That is something that you as an engineer have to do. So I think the no code tools, the no code trend that we are heading towards is gonna remove that need for writing components like input and buttons and things like that. So it's going to remove the need for writing these basic components. So one of the, I think, the hardest job market that's going to hit is going to be actually for junior developers, which I know is discouraging. But I would say that focus on your logical thinking, because in the future you're not going to be writing like components anymore, but you're going to need to understand how those components fit together and how the architecture overall fits together. So this is why I say keep your fundamentals strong, because even if you don't know React, AI tool will be able to help you write in React. But then you need to understand how you're gonna get data from one component, send it to another component. So you're gonna be kind of up leveling from just writing code, just writing a component, to how that code works overall in an app. So I think we're all gonna actually get promoted into higher levels of engineering. We're gonna all become more like higher level architects of the app. We're not going to be spending our time writing like components, writing our basic code like input fields and this and that and form. AI tools will be able to do that for us, which actually they are able to do right now. But how they kind of work together in an app and how data should flow, that is the job of an engineer. And I think that is where you should keep your skills strong.
Yep, I couldn't agree more on the point which I mentioned, that keeping fundamentals and skills strong would definitely not burden you with a job loss, or maybe you should not be afraid that much with AI if you are having a fundamentals strong. Yep. Thank you so much for the time, Shruti, and for answering all the queries. Do you have any closing remarks? Any points for folks who are just starting, or maybe the folks who are there in the industry already, or maybe trying to get into AI wherein they can integrate that to their existing applications?
Yeah. Well, thank you first for having me, Ayush, and for being so flexible with the time. For folks who are just getting started, I would say that I think it is a very overwhelming field to enter, but that is true for every field, I would say. The advantage of being in this field is that there are so much resources out there, so much content for free. You can consume all day long and you still won't be done. So I would say, when you're starting out, make a list of things you want to learn, and once you've learned that, give yourself a little bit of reward so you can keep going, keep the motivation up. Make a list of things that you want to learn, and then once you've built that, build something with that. Once you've learned that, build something with it. So what you want to do is, when you have learned something, have something demoable to show, even if it's a simple form, simple app, even if it is just showing your HTML, JavaScript skills. You want to be able to show people that you know your skills and you can build something with it. I think just simply doing tutorials is not good enough, because tutorials are all theory. You need demo. And once you build something, put it in your resume. Keep your resume as your living list of items that you built. And as you learn more and more skills, keep putting in your resume. One thing about job search is that a lot of folks get discouraged that they're not hearing back from companies. I would say start networking with folks, message people on LinkedIn, tell them like you are interested in a job, people who are hiring, message them, message recruiters. It is really hard to find a job when you're just dumping your resume on the careers page of a really big organization. It's very hard to get noticed. But if you start networking and start reaching out to people, it becomes a lot easier to get human to human connection, and you're a lot easier to recommend.
Yep. Definitely very good points for the folks who are starting in the industry. Okay. Thank you again, Shruti, for coming in and teaching us about AI, JavaScript, and web applications. We might, if the time allows, and we have certain good topics coming in, so you might see Shruti coming in as well for more webinars if Shruti agrees again.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for coming in, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be coming in with the next webinar very soon. And see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye, folks.